look at your art and feel like it's not good enough? Like everybody else knows what they're doing, but you don't? You brush off compliments, thinking people are just being nice, or they pity you, or that you got lucky when you do something you really want to like, but you don't allow yourself to? Well, that is called imposter syndrome, and it's that voice that convinces you that your accomplishments and what you do does not deserve praise, and you're not as good or as competent as others sees you or perceives you, despite of the overwhelming evidence of your actual abilities. And it's not even related to those abilities. It often affects people who achieved a lot in a short period of time, but it's not exclusive to this. It can happen to anybody, to students, professionals, famous artists, hobbyists, anybody. It happens when you're constantly comparing yourself to others, seeing polished work on social media and forgetting that there is work behind it. You see perfection being spawned out of nowhere. It can also hold you from so many great things. You don't share your work or apply for opportunities because you feel that you're not good enough and you will never be. It's important to establish that there's a correlation between imposter syndrome and perfectionism. You spend a lot of time on a piece in fear of criticism. Imposter syndrome can start from a need of perfection. It is like cooking a meal, but you focus on that one slightly overcooked vegetable and you think that is all anybody will notice and nothing else. It's paralyzing. You avoid even starting new projects because of the fear of failure, thinking that you don't deserve even recognition, commissions, shoutouts, anything. And unlike some fields, specifically with art, there's no clear measure of what's good and what's bad. It's all subjective at the end of the day. There's also this huge social media pressure, since it highlights the success of others while hiding under the rug the real struggles of people starting or trying to get better. The follower count and the engagement that these people have is a metric that falsely dictates actual skill. Online, there's also the frequent criticism that is everywhere, all the time, constantly, very aggressively, which is tied to your self-worth. But how do we deal with imposter syndrome? Well, first, we need to recognize that we have imposter syndrome. We often feel like if we acknowledge it, that means we don't have it because deep inside we know that we deserve it. But that is silly thinking, and it's another layer of imposter syndrome, making you feel like you don't deserve the things you do. You need to track your progress and see how much you actually improve. That's why it's so important to keep your old art, because you can see how much you grew and how much you learn over the time. You need to stop comparing yourself to others. It's okay to have inspiration and it's okay to learn from others, but comparing yourself as an excuse to demolish your own self-worth makes no sense. It's not worth doing. There's nothing of value that you can get from that except to further think that your work is just not worth it. At the end of the day, failing is part of the process. We cannot improve until we acknowledge those flaws. And the only way of acknowledging those flaws is making flaws or failing or making mistakes. It's normal, it's human, we all do it. You need to also be part of supportive communities, people who are like-minded. I say this I will say every single video or almost every single video that I made, but being part of a community of like-minded people, it's so important for this. It really makes wonders, and it's day and night difference. It's huge difference. So please be part of communities that are aligned to what you do and how you think, because this will help your mental health so much. You also, as hard as this is and slightly hypocritical of me to say, but you need to learn to accept compliments instead of deflecting them. It is hard for me to also take compliments, but I try my best to not push them away. At least, even if you can thank them, even if you don't agree with them, thanking them instead of pushing them away and saying no, you're wrong, it's really important. But also, you need to take breaks when it's needed. You need to know, or because you feel it when you start to get stressed. Art should be for fun, art should be for expression, because it makes you feel good things. If you're starting to stress and feel all negative things, or there's more negative feelings than positive ones, that is when you need a break. And some people take days, some people take weeks, some people take months, some people take years. Take a break, because your mental health is screaming for a break. You need a mental break, and it is totally okay, and everybody does it, even professionals. You need to focus on yourself and how you're feeling, not on perfection, not on perfectionism, because that is literally just slowing you down and killing the joy of creation. Remind yourself why you create. Remind yourself why you do this. You started doing this and you stick with it for some reason. There's something there that is keeping you doing this, and you need to never forget that, because art is subjective at the end of the day. There's no good and bad. There's technicals on what's good and bad, but when it comes to creation itself, there's no good and bad. You just create and do what makes you happy. If you are serious about it, and if you're serious about progressing and you're serious about being technically good, then we can talk about it. But this is not about that. This is not about that at all. This is not about that learn curve. That is very, very unrelated. You need to focus on the priorities of why you create, and then you can focus on how to create it. I personally go through this as well, so this is also for myself. I have to remind you and myself that dealing with this means that we care about it. We care about what we do. It is proof that we are invested, that we want to grow, and that we want to do our best. That is passion. That is passion right there, and it's a strength, not a weakness. We're not alone in feeling this way, and it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It means you're human. We are human. There's nothing wrong about this, but the only wrong thing is letting it stay and not doing anything about it, for it to spiral in the worst ways. You don't need to prove your worth to anybody, not even yourself. You're already doing enough. You're more than enough, exactly the way you are, and what you create is an extension of that, not a measure of it. None of it is. None of this can be measured in numbers. So ignore social media. That follower count means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. Focus on your priorities, not a number on a screen. Please, I beg you, please be kind to yourself. Please be kind to yourself on the hard days and celebrate the good ones. Allow yourself to be happy. You're doing the best you can, and that's more than enough. Way more than enough. You're worth the effort it takes to chase your dreams. You're worth the time, the struggle, the growth. You're worth everything. Don't let doubt take that away from you. And don't underestimate your unique voice, because that has so much value. Thank you so much for watching, and don't stop. Never stop.